who, have been using the internet for 20 years, but came online in a less social space. They see it, okay, here's an acronym, they're told it is an acronym, it must mean laughing out loud, and so they still use it as actual laughter. Whereas when you talk to the youngest groups, LOL became more a marker of irony or softening, or I'm not angry at you, I'm not feeling hostile, these additional sort of subtle social meanings. And for the youngest group of people, there's no literal meaning left to LOL at all.
It's almost just like a filler, the way people would say like.
Well, yeah, it's a filler that specifically indicates that there's some sort of double meaning to be found. And sometimes that double meaning is, if I say something that could be interpreted as rude or hostile, like, oh, I hate you, if I say, I hate you, lol, now I'm joking, so it's fine. I'm not laughing out loud while I hate you, like in a malicious sort of way. I'm undermining my message and saying, I hate you, lol, but I'm not serious about it. But in the inverse, if you say, I love you, lol, that doesn't soften the message anymore. Now that means, oh no, I fake love you, like I'm being quite mean about that. So it's not always a softener, it just hints towards some sort of double meaning, which could be good or bad.
You talked about the idea of a hostility, and I was surprised to learn how much debate there is around the use of a period. So for the rest of us who just use a period at the end of a sentence, it made me feel, as one producer put it, old as dust, to learn that it also can be seen as passive-aggressive.
Yeah, the period is such an interesting new battleground for internet language, because there's definitely a traditional use, which is still found in formal writing. The book contains many periods and they're not passive-aggressive because it's a formal context. But in an informal context, you don't need the period anymore.
Who is paying this bitch?
Between one sentence or one phrase and the next, because you're just going to hit send in a chat context. You can just send the message, and that makes your messages easier to read than this massive wall of text, particularly on a tiny screen. That means that the period is now open and available for taking on other sorts of meanings and other connotations. And one of those is that very sense of formality. And you read a formal sentence like, and now over to the weather. And you sort of drop your tone of voice, making your voice deeper at the end of the sentence, like you conventionally do with a period in formal writing, adds a note of solemnity or finality or seriousness to what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm going for.
Right, but the problem is if you say, okay, sounds good, and you add that note of seriousness, now you've got positive words and serious punctuation, and the clash between them is what creates that sense of passive aggression.
How do we avoid misunderstandings?
We talk to each other. You can ask people what they mean.
But isn't that seen as, I don't know, sort of dorky? Because you're saying it as though someone might actually pick up the phone and start talking, and less that's happening.
I mean, you don't have to talk to people by picking up the phone. You can talk to people by saying, what did you mean by that, or are you actually mad at me, in the text message. Sometimes I say this is associated with older people, and people take that as a criticism. But